looking at. The first one, of course, is an issue that has been at the front burner almost like a month now. There seems to be a deliberate attempt, a focused attempt, an intentional attempt from the federal government to eventually free our local government from the apron string of our governors. And of course, we're talking about local government autonomy. There's an update. Of course, throughout last week, almost on a daily basis, it was reported that, you know, the chief law officer of the state, of the federation, the AGF, the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, has approached the Supreme Court, of course, dragged the 36 state governors to the Supreme Court, and the major issues around local government autonomy. Yes, 36 state governors have been dragged before the Supreme Court, bordering on issues around local government autonomy, from the conduct of elections, dissolution of elected local government chairmen, you know, autonomy when it comes to financial autonomy, the ability of the local governments to be able to get their monies directly. So today we have an update. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu somehow has added his voice to the call for local government autonomy, and so we're going to be looking at that on the show this evening. There's also the minimum wage conversation. We have a strike looming just ahead of us for tomorrow. There could be a nationwide strike. It has actually been declared by organized labor for tomorrow, but again, there are updates and there are issues around what can or could not happen depending on how it goes. We have an update on that, and of course we are going to be looking at these negotiations. How do we solve this particular problem? But before, of course, I open up on what we have on the two issues, we have Barrister Curtis Adigba joining us all the way from the United States of America via the phone lines. I will be my only guest on the show today. Nuruddin Adegbero, you know, had to take a deserved rest. Joseph Folorunsho also is on the sidelines, but we hope to have a very brilliant conversation this evening. Barrister Curtis Adigba is already on standby. Good evening, Barrister.
Good evening, and good evening to the listeners.
Perfect. Good evening. Nice to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Because of time, we just go straight to the issues. There's a lot to talk about, really. The first on the menu this evening is local government autonomy. Again, we seem to have the president now coming up, you know, to talk about the need to free our local governments from the gag, permit me to use the word, of our governors. And the president has told Arewa leaders, just this last week Thursday, he was at a forum with Arewa leaders, that's the leaders from the northern part of the country, and basically what he was telling them is to summon the governors to allow local governments function. Of course, we will be asking ourselves, really, now that the president has added his voice to the call to free our local governments and get them autonomous, while his AGF, the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, has also approached the Supreme Court, dragged 36 state governors before the Supreme Court, of course, to get the local governments to function, you know, independently of our governors. We will be asking this very important question this evening. Can the president break the jinx? Yes, when we talk about the jinx, remember the last president, President Muhammadu Buhari, signed an executive order. He did all he could. He made statements. There was an appeal and everything, really, to get the local governments to function independently of the governors, but all to no avail. So that particular jinx, can we have the president now break that jinx? If he's making statements and his Attorney General is also approaching the Supreme Court, are we going to get some form of finality to this particular issue? So that's going to be the first issue for consideration on the roundtable this evening. The second one, minimum wage negotiations. Strike begins tomorrow. That's announced by organized labor. And of course, with that, there's a possibility of fuel scarcity and blackout as NUPENG, PENGASSAN, vow to join the strike. The federal government is begging for more time and understanding, and so we're going to ask ourselves on the show this evening, what is the way out? How do we get out of this quagmire, this logjam, this debacle of negotiations and failed negotiations? But there's an update on that before I bring you in, Barrister Curtis Adigba. The Senate President and has also summoned the governors to an emergency meeting to meet with labor leaders, and that meeting will be happening today. You know, it's one of those things where we see die minute, almost the last minute before a strike action. You know, everybody coming onto the table to appeal to labor. So we're going to see whether this will avert the strike, the impending strike action for tomorrow. But that's an exclusive from the Punch newspapers, and I think other media platforms have also reported the fact that the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, and the governors are going to be meeting at an emergency meeting with organized labor leaders to see how the strike for tomorrow can be averted. We're going to follow that story. We'll try and get updates and see whether indeed this last minute intervention by the Senate President and the governors will avert the impending strike action for tomorrow. But let's get on the show this evening, Barrister Curtis Adigba. Like I said, the first issue is the issue of local government autonomy. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has called on state governments to prioritize the needs of local communities by ensuring accountability and effectiveness in the administration of local governments. He made these remarks on Thursday during a meeting with the leadership of the Arewa Consultative Forum at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. In his address, President Tinubu emphasized the importance of local governance in a constitutional democracy. He appealed to the governors to be more sympathetic and responsive to the needs of local communities, stressing that residents live, work, and farm in these areas. He questioned the effectiveness of the 7 and 74 local government areas in delivering services and coordinating development programs with state and federal governments. And this is quoting the president. Let me just leave the quote. We have the exact words of the president. We have the soundbite from the president. I'll crave your indulgence, Barrister Curtis Adigba, so that again we are not misunderstood, or it's been said that we quoted the president out of context. I'll appeal to you to allow us play that soundbite. Let's hear directly from the president what he told the Arewa Consultative Forum at the Presidential Villa on the issue of local government autonomy. Then, when we listen to the president, we'll be right back to really dissect this issue. The ultimate question here is, can President Bola Ahmed Tinubu break the jinx when it comes to the issue of local government autonomy in Nigeria? Let's listen to the president. I'll be right back.
I will appeal to you to summon the governors summon them, call them up. I'm doing my best to improve the revenue of the country and giving them their dues. But they must equally be sympathetic to the populace, and they must consider the need of the local people. People reside in the local government. People are in the local community. That is where they reside. That is where they feed. That is where they garden. That is where they cook. That's where they farm. If the local government are not free and leaders don't hang on to the number, we have 774 local government. It's just a number. Is it effective? Is it reaching the people. Who is being held accountable for this money? Maybe we should look and recalibrate what version that was good 4 years ago might not be good today. And when we want the votes, we go to the locals. When we get the vote, we move to Abuja. I think we have to collectively join hands. I need for you to give us a committee of people that can really embark on the campaign their value to change. Our brothers and sisters, it is disheartening watching the TV and see the number of people in IDPs. No sincere leader in this country.
All right, that was the voice of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at Aso Villa addressing leaders of the Arewa Consultative Forum. It sounded a bit emotional, quite emotional. It was easy really to feel the sentiments and emotions of the president on this particular issue. And basically what he said, part of what I was able to pick from what he said is that, look, you know, we are running a constitutional democracy. I will appeal to you, and to you here, he's talking about the leaders of the Arewa Consultative Forum, you know, to appeal to the governors, summon the governors. Like the president said, I'm doing my best to enhance the revenue base of the country. I give them what belongs to them and their dues, but they must be sympathetic to the plight of people at the local level. He also said, when we want the votes, we go to the locals. When we get the votes, we move to and focus on Abuja. But Sᴜᴍᴜᴜ, I'm sure you listened to the president. Let's start with what you think of what he has said to the leaders of the Arewa Consultative Forum.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the president's soundbite is useful politically. But when you scrutinize and dissect it, the president is just playing politics. And I'll tell you why. First and foremost, the Arewa Consultative Forum is not a constitutionally recognized body. I don't know what power they have to summon governors and get governors to comply with what requires a constitutional amendment. That's one reason. That's how you will know that the president is actually not serious about what he's saying. He's only playing politics. Because this soundbite can be used and reused during campaigns. That the president actually tried to get autonomy for local government, but then the forces beyond him didn't allow him to do so. Number two, you just said the president of the Senate, Akpabio, who in terms of the democracy that we run is lower than the president. He has succeeded in summoning governors to Abuja to discuss with labor leaders. Why can't the president summon the governors himself and say to the governors, I'm the leader of this country and you are joint leaders with me? I think that we cannot make this country move forward if the local governments are not performing their functions, right? I need your support in this area. I don't think the governors will refuse. Number two, the president party controls majority of the states.
APC has 20 states, PDP 13, ABGA 1, Labour Party 1, NNPP 1.
So the president is just short of about 5 or 4 votes to get to third of the states. Now the president playing with ABGA, NNPP, and the Labour Party, or even the opposition, because the president can play smart politics here. By getting the APC Governors Forum to come out and say, we support autonomy for local government, and will support any constitutional amendment that will take away the joint account system that allows these governors to abuse the local government funds, right?
Yes.
And that we are prepared to allow the local government play its constitutional role as listed out in Section 7 and 8 of the 1999 Constitution. Now, what that does is to put the opposition party on the spot. That the APC as a ruling party is prepared to give more power and autonomy to the local government, and it's the opposition party, the PDP, and others that are not cooperating with the president. Do you understand? That becomes smart politics, and that will make them to also move towards the president position. Number 3, this president enjoys a lot of goodwill with these governors. During the last Salah celebration, I think almost all the governors across party lines were in Lagos to visit the president. This president could have brought that issue down and tabled it and said, well, this is an informal visit, but I think because of the criticality or the critical nature of this issue, permit me to table this issue before you guys. He's done none of that. He took the visit of Arewa Consultative Forum, a more pressure group in the North, not even representing the entire North, to say, summon the governors. This is what we want to do. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm with you. I'm with you.
That's one side. The other side is, I think we must also examine how we got to where we are today. And I will show you how the president himself precipitated what the local government is facing today. Don't forget that in 1999, I think about 1999 or 2000 or so, this president was the first to say it was wrong to list created local governments in the Constitution. And then he went ahead to create, I think, LCDs, as they are called in Lagos.
Yeah.
And then he was taking funds belonging to the constitutionally recognized local government to share with them.
20, he created.
To share with the LSDC.
Yeah, 37. Yes. So everything became 57.
Yes. And it was on the basis of that that the then President Olusegun Obasanjo, decided to withhold the funds to the local government in Lagos State on the ground that his actions were a direct abuse of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, of course, you know, there was a lot of policy around the issue, but the Supreme Court, the matter eventually went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, look, those so-called local governments created are incoherent. In other words, until the Constitution is amended and those local governments are listed in the Constitution, they are incoherent. In other words, they don't really exist, okay? And they also say that Obasanjo he had no power to withhold those funds. Of course, again, that's a political judgment in the sense that the Supreme Court could have put that issue to rest. Now, having said that, you also know that it was Lagos that championed the existence of State Electoral Commission to conduct elections in the state using the same Constitution, by saying that the Constitution provides that the State House of Assembly shall make laws for the governance of, in terms of administration, their duration, and all that. And that was how other states also followed. Now, which is one of the major reasons why the local governments are suffering the fate that they are suffering from today. Because you then have governors directing the state INEC leaders on who and who can win an election and cannot win an election. You have a state where in the last general election conducted by INEC, the parties ran neck to neck. And 3-4 months down the line, you conduct a local government election that only the ruling party will win all the local government.
And even councillorships.
You know, councillorships. So you know that these are not elections. These are results that are written. Now, I've gone back memory lane to let you guys understand. Again, he also, with his fellow governors in Lagos, championed the action or the activity of taking away the powers of the local government, even at the state level. You know how tenement rates, the management of markets, the cemeteries, and all those were functions of the local government.
Garages, waste management, yeah.
Thank you. But you know, you remember how his government and those that he empowered and put in position harmonized all these functions.
Even advertisement and signages, yeah. I think all of those were supposed to be local government functions, yeah.
So, today you have what is called the land use charge that combine, I think, neighborhood improvement charges, tenement rate,
radio,
and all that. Thank you. These are local government functions that they took. So it is right that he who was part of the problem is trying to solve the problem.
Okay.
But there's a need for him to be sincere about his effort. Like I said to you when we were having a conversation this morning, this president didn't make this so much talk and conversation about changing the national anthem. Which means he has goodwill with members of the National Assembly and he has goodwill with these governors, okay? All it takes is for the president to be upfront with Nigerians about sincerity. Mr. President, I'm calling on you to call the governors who are your friends, who loves you, who are your sympathizers, who are willing to succeed with you. Call them and make them understand that this is a critical point in Nigeria's development, all right? And let Nigerians know, any governor that is opposed to this move that you are making. Number two, the leadership of the National Assembly is held by your party. You have goodwill across party lines in the National Assembly. Mr. President, call these men and have a really deep conversation with them about what you want to do as far as the local government autonomy is concerned. And these governors will now control their state houses of assembly. They can go home and get their to vote for the amendment to grant the local government autonomy. I think this will show that the president is very serious about this matter. Not just like calling the ʔᴏᴜᴛᴜ to Abuja and then say to them, you go back and tell the governors in the southeast, call them to order, call them and tell them that local governments need autonomy. Or call ʔᴏᴜᴜᴜ to Abuja. Of course, these are mere pressure group. They have no constitutional role. Governors don't report to them.
Okay, well,
what would they?
Okay, sorry to cut him, Mr. Curtis, you know.
So go on, yes.
Yeah, again, you said that, look, there's nothing wrong in someone who was part of how the problem started, now being in a position to maybe along the line has changed his mind and he now understands that, look, it is time, to free these local governments and allow them function independently of the governors. Now, the president has issued a statement. How you think that, look, these kind of statements just indicate politics, really. It's just about playing politics. There's really nothing solid to those kinds of statements because Arewa Consultative Forum, you don't think they even have the constitutional powers or the leverage really to summon governors.
And they don't even represent the entire North.
The North. So
you have the Northern Elders Forum.
Okay, well, but what do you make of the decision of the AGF, Lateef Fagbemi SAN, to approach the Supreme Court on this matter? Well detailed prayers from the AGF on this particular matter. Conduct of local government elections, the joint accounts, monies getting directly, the powers of the governor to sack elected local governments. You know, again, it's so troubling by Mr. Curtis.
But for example, it's a convoluted process. Now, the AGF is not going to court on its own violation. The AGF is going to court on the instruction from the president.
Good.
And who did he take to court? Again, the 36 state governors. Not Arewa Consultative Forum, not ʔᴏᴜᴜᴜ, not ʔᴜᴜᴜᴜ, not Middle Belt. It is the governors, right? Why you know what has happened in the past? When the former President Buhari, signed the Executive Order 10, which had the effect of releasing local governments funds directly to them. The governors led by Kayode Fayemi challenged the president at the Supreme Court, and they won. So you know the direction of the Supreme Court as far as this issue is already concerned.
Can the Supreme Court overrule itself on this matter? I'm wondering.
Well, it can, but the specific conditions must be met. And it's not likely to be by the same panel. Maybe another panel saying that there was a miscarriage of justice or that the egregious principle of law was violated. You understand? They can. So the point I'm making is that, let's say you and I have a disagreement as to how certain things should play out, right? And you and I are friends, and we talk from time to time. Why do we have to go to court for the court to resolve the differences when you and I can talk and resolve it? Why does this president summon the governors or invite them? Let me use the word invite, and let them have heart-to-heart talk among themselves. These guys are partners in progress. You understand what I'm saying?
With you.
So why on one side?
Don't you think that's an assumption? Because again, sorry to cut him, Mr. Curtis. Like you said, and like a lot of Nigerians have also said, the president seems to have that goodwill. He enjoys that goodwill, not only amongst the governors. The political class generally seems to be at peace, really, quote and unquote, except for the opposition that may be trying to upstage him in 2027. But look at the National Assembly, for example. He had a very warm welcome to the 10th National Assembly at the joint sitting to mark 25 years of democracy in Nigeria. At some point during that sitting, the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, told the President, Mr. President, this is your National Assembly. You are welcome. And like you also pointed out, sometime in December, or was it January, the entire governors were in Lagos, even the opposition governors. The Plateau State governor, for example, while Plateau State was burning, was in Lagos to celebrate with the president and all of that. But there are also people who say that, look, yes, the APC has a sizable number of governors, the majority, the PDP following the Labour Party. But when it comes to issues as taking powers away from the governors, there will be a red line that they don't think the president enjoys that kind of goodwill and control. Do you think really we are overstating or overthinking the influence of the president over the governors? Don't you think that when it comes to real politics, he may not enjoy that kind of control?
Okay, let me tell you, what was the number one selling point of this president as a candidate? We were told, one, he was a political strategist. Two, he's a grizzled politician who knows what to do. All right?
I'm with you.
Now let's leave that, and let's face the reality. This president has got enormous power, such that all the governors, not only him, even the ones before him, such that all the governors want to be in his good grace or graces. Now, go back to the same point, right? I want to see the effort that this president is making with the governors and not succeeding before he can say, I want to go to the highest court in the land.
Okay, so you should first do it. Let's see it fail first before we
Exactly. Because why take a group of people to court? The people you call your friends, your fellow leaders and all that, you have very good relationship, right? Why take them to court for the court to state the position? Well, even if the court today states and say, okay, local government should be independent, right? And the governors, because we talked about attitude, and the governors refuse to implement, what would the president do? That's why I'm saying that the president needs to show sincerity or purpose by first of all engaging the governors. Now let me ask you, do you know of any APC governor in Nigeria today that will oppose the president's agenda for autonomy for local government in Nigeria?
If the APC governors could oppose President Muhammadu Buhari on this particular, like I said, we're talking about what is considered to be enormous powers of the governors when it comes to...
Let me tell you why that happened. I also think that President Buhari could have taken the route of the National Assembly. But President Buhari had a higher mountain to climb. Because as you know, he wasn't good at politicking. And don't forget that in his first term, right?
Yes.
President Buhari's major opposition was his party, the APC.
At the National Assembly.
At the National Assembly, where the duo of the President of the Senate, Bukola Saraki, and the Speaker, Yakubu Dogara, were on the polar opposite of the President.
Even though being in the same party, yeah.
Yes, and at the point, of course, they had to even leave their party to join another party, which meant that the President couldn't even get any tune to the National Assembly. You also recall that when the President wanted to remove the former CGN, Onohe, even though the Code of Conduct Bureau had found him guilty, blah, 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 the President couldn't remove him because he needed to third support in the Senate, which he couldn't get. That led to, reaching a concession with the man for him to be eased out. You understand? You get the point that I'm making.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Now, the atmosphere that we have now is different. As I speak to you today, all right, President Buhari had APC governors, but I don't think at any point in time he enjoyed the goodwill of this governor like President Tinubu today.
He's enjoying,
and I don't think he had this number of governors. I think at that point the PDP had more than 13 governors. So, and the opposition was viral, meaning that it was much more difficult for him
to get anything done with the governors.
To get anything done with the governor. And the point I'm making is, look, of the 20 APC governors, listen, if the president is not called to accomplish only the simplest of things, the president is called to accomplish and achieve the hardest thing. That is what history makers do to become history makers. They go after the most difficult issues and untie the knots. And that's what we're asking him to do. And I think that the Supreme Court is not in a position to untie this knot. Now, the Supreme Court can interpret the Constitution by saying the system of local government is hereby recognized and created, right?
But what about implementation?
And the Supreme Court can also say, okay, the Constitution provides for a joint account, all right? That still leaves the problem intact. What I think the president needs to do is that if he gets the buy-in of his 20 governors, and then he goes looking for other 24 who can appeal to their state houses of assembly to support this amendment when it is done from the National Assembly, he has a better chance of accomplishing this task than the way he's going about it. And I appeal to our consultative forum to call the governors to order. First of all, we achieve nothing.
All right. All right. Yeah. Again, we are looking at strategy here now. Go to court, work using your influence and leverage on the governors and all of that. But let's also dissect the ridiculousness that comes with what our local governments have become because of the enormous influence and power and control from our governors. One of the issues, Barrister Curtis Adigba, which gets a lot of Nigerians who understand this issue a bit furious, is the issue of sacking of local government chairmen. A new governor comes in because he's not from the same party with the chairman, he just sacks them. For example, Governor Seyi Makinde in 2019 came in, PDP, APC chairmen were there, and he sacked all of them, 33 of them. And as we speak, except for recently when local government elections were now conducted, he just put caretaker chairman there. The same thing happened in Plateau State. Governor Caleb Mufwang, just 3 days of assuming office, sacked all the 17 local government chairmen, and now he has caretaker committee, chairman. Apart from that,
so is the same disease manifesting as headache, stomach ache, arthritis, and all kind of it? And I was explaining it to you.
The same disease, different symptoms.
So yes. So what happened is the Constitution also provided that the State House of Assembly shall be in a position to make rules for the regulation, the conduct, the power, and all that, the duration of the local government in their states, having been created by the Constitution. And the governors, because they are in total control of their state assembly, except for places like rivers now, where you have division of power between the governor and the assembly, the political leader of the state. You know, of course, you know that except under Obasanjo, when EFCC was using the assembly members, it's almost impossible to get any assembly in Nigeria to act against the governor. And that is why the governors fight so hard to dictate who becomes the speaker and the majority leader in this assembly. Now, as you understand, the governors are using the State House of Assembly to fix the tenure of the local government in their state, right? And they're also using these people to remove any local government chairman that does not cooperate with them. We all saw the mocking drama of the local government in Ogun State, all coming to the governor to pledge loyalty after one of them had challenged the governor's life. So what happened is they are using the State House of Assembly to remove chairmen and to dissolve the council before their tenure. And why do they do so? It gives them the opportunity to plant their political thugs and supporters in the local government for election purposes. Today, the governors all believe that the reason why local governments should exist is so that the appointed or elected chairman, depending on what they want to do per state, right, can be used as grassroots mobilizers for them to win election. That's what the president was referring to. And this is not with one party alone. It cuts across party lines. I'll give you an example. Peter Obi, as governor of Anambra State for 8 years, did not conduct any local government election until the last month of his administration. Just when he was about leaving. And the purpose of that was very clear. He wanted
control of the local politics.
Yes, you understand. That you mentioned the example of Sᴜᴍᴏ. Now, we know that somewhere in Kaduna State, the former governor 𝐴ᴏᴜ conducted a local government election. And you know, I think one or two local governments they went to the opposition party. But there were steps he took before the election. First of all, they had to identify the voters. The political party had registered that showed that these were their members. You understand? And it was electronic voting. We also remember that in Lagos some times ago, I think the opposition won in Etiyosa, where the son of
that's Obalinde,
yes, was declared the winner, and then again it was taken away from him and all that. So, in amending that constitution, right, how the tenure of the local government should be secured. It should not be at the pleasure of the governor
to the State House of Assembly.
For instance, look at the National Assembly today. The National Assembly, as a legislative body, cannot be dissolved by the president before their time, and they are elected. Now, the State House of Assembly can also not be dissolved by the governor before their time. And we know that the local government to have a legislative body that can make laws for the stability of the local government, how it should be governed, what should happen. But the problem here is that we have a system, right, that the governors are allowed to play an outsized role because the president usually don't want to go contrary to the desires of the governors. Whom they see as important link for votes in their state. So the question therefore is, President Tinubu willing to spend his political capital
on this
to do what is right and not and not necessarily play politics.
All right, but let me pick your brain a bit, Barrister Curtis. And I was having a conversation with Sandra during the week, and I said, look, let's get ourselves thinking. Let's just begin to think about it. And I said that, look, if we have only the federal government and the local government without the governors, would it have meant that governance would not have been smooth and progressive in the country? Like, it's just the federal government and then the local government. Don't you think we'd have a more functional government? Do you really think the governors are that important to governance in the country?
So my direct answer to you is look at the United Kingdom. Because that's the system they have in the United Kingdom. You have the federal government and you have the boroughs, which is the local government.
Yes.
And they have built a country that our governors love to travel to for holidays. There are no governors in the United Kingdom. You only have local government and then you have mayors who govern the cities. Do you understand?
I'm with you.
And now, and that is the whole argument that people that I have been making over the years. Again, let me quote Margaret Thatcher, the former British Prime Minister, who said, states are artificial constructs.
States are artificial constructs.
Yeah, construct. You know, because it is the local government, the communities that you put together to form a state.
So why don't you run governance from that level? Why do you have
from that? That is the purpose. That is why the British operate the federal and the local government system. There are no states.
Because again, if we want to ask ourselves, is there anything the governors are doing that can be done at the local level? I've tried to check really in the constitution the functions of the governors and that. I'm like, is there anything the governors are doing that can be done at the local level, at local government level?
Nothing. The answer is nothing. And I've just answered you by saying, take a look at the United Kingdom. Is there anything that the states are doing in Nigeria that the local government has not succeeded in doing in the United Kingdom?
Because the average thing you see a governor doing, for example, by Curtis in Nigeria, they build roads. Local government chairman, if it's functional, can build roads. Hospitals, they can build hospitals at the local level.
State roads are actually very few when you look at them. Because if we allow the local government to perform their functions, most of the roads in the communities are the responsibility of the local government. The market, cemetery, you understand? The management of cemetery, these are local government functions. Provision of drainages, these are local government functions. You know? So the governors are actually playing, that's why I use the word outsized role. They are just grabbing left, right, and center, grabbing power everywhere. And they are not measuring up to their responsibility. That's why you have a problem today. Now, they are happy dissolving local government and appointing
caretaker chairman.
People to be caretaker chairman. Okay, have you asked yourself, why under the military, the local government functioned better than under a democratic government? When we were under the military, elections to local government were contested on non-party basis. And they were free and fair elections. Those who won, and they performed. Because they were not attached to the political spring.
Of the governors.
Of the governors. So we should begin to ask ourselves and say, look, why did the local government function better under the military? And don't forget that under the military, we also had states. But the focus from the center, right, and the laws, the constitution then did not make this, have to contain these problematic provisions that we are dealing with right now.
Joint accounts, states independent electoral commissions, and all of that.
Yeah, one thing that worries me is that all over the world, when people see, or political office holders and public officers see that certain laws are not working and hindering the progress of the country,
they fine-tune it.
They fine-tune it, they move to amend the constitution. The United States, for instance, have had over 20 amendments. First Amendment, Second Amendment, Third Amendment.
They keep amending it to make their society better.
Better. What have we done? Every time we identify these issues, right, we would rather not deal with them. And in few instances that we have dealt with them, when the opportunities are given to us, we don't implement them. And I told you, I gave you the example of what happened when the late President Yar'Adua had to travel without transmitting a letter, handing over to the Vice President. And the Senate, adopted the doctrine of necessity. To get Jonathan then to act as a president. Now, following that, there was an amendment to the Constitution that says if the president or the governor is out of the country and he or indisposed and he does not transmit a letter to the National Assembly, I think within 30 days or thereabout, the deputy governor or the vice president shall become the acting president or acting governor.
Automatically.
We had the opportunity. Yes, we had the opportunity
to test that law in Ondo State. We didn't do it.
We didn't do it. Rather, the president proffered a political solution.
A very chaotic political solution.
Now the governor, he said he should go back and remain deputy governor. And the exchange was the House of Assembly that started an impeachment against him.
And then the governor should sign a letter of resignation undated.
Yes. So you see, so this is. Yeah.
Well, all right.
You are not willing.
You are not willing. Yeah, I understand you. It's it's still political.
We are not willing to tackle our problems and deal with them.
All right, it's still political roundtable, mainland 98.3 FM. We have Barrister Curtis Adigba on the phone line, and of course, we've been looking at this issue of local government autonomy and the president telling the Arewa Consultative Forum leaders at the Aso Villa that look, summon the governors so that they can't tell them, when you summon them, to allow the local government's function, even as the AGF has already approached the Supreme Court on the same matter. So we're asking ourselves this evening, can the president break the jinx? Well, we're streaming the show live on Facebook. I can already see comments and contributions dropping. You can also drop your comments and contributions on our Facebook and YouTube platform. Of course, it's interactive. I'm going to open the phone lines, at the second half of the show, but you can actually be a part of the show by dropping your comments and contributions, and be rest assured I'm going to read all of them out. But before we move to the second issue, which is this impending strike action for tomorrow, there's this part of local government autonomy. It's a conversation that even the AGF has taken to the Supreme Court. When the Senate recently also talked about this issue, basically saying the governors have killed the local government ambition in Nigeria, the Deputy Senate President, Senator Jibrin Barau, said that, look, there's nothing to amending the Constitution on local government election if the issue of how elections are conducted is not addressed. And basically he was referring to the issue of state independent electoral commissions conducting local government elections. Lateef Fagbemisi and the AGF has also said that, look, it is time to revert to when the central INEC used to conduct local government elections, because then it was more transparent, it was more effective than what we have now, that a lot of people have said that, look, what we do is just a complete waste of time. We're just writing results. Do you think that, look, when we look at all of these issues of the powers of the governors to dissolve local government chairmen, look at this joint account problem where what is due to local governments are not getting to them, we should also go to the fundamentals of how elections are conducted to choose these leaders at the local level?
So you can't do that until you amend that constitution. That's what I'm telling you.
But you believe we should also look at that part of it?
Yes, the section of the constitution that the governors are hiding under to create state INEC has to be taken out, right? Because you see, if you ask the federal government to conduct election at the local government level, all you are doing is to shift the problem to another part of government. Who is telling you that the president has no interest in who becomes a local government chairman in different places? Because you heard the president himself said, when it comes to election, we go to them for votes.
But do you believe, Barrister Curtis, that when the central INEC conducted these local government elections, there were better results, really, more transparent results than what we have now, that this state INEC is doing?
But again, the character of INEC in the country has changed, and I think people should also remember that. Don't forget that the INEC under Obasanjo was different from the INEC we had under.
I can't forget Maurice Iwu.
And then what about Professor Humphrey Nwosu?
Well, that's
who conducted the June 12 election. Yes. What about Whiskey or so? There's the Whiskey, you know, and we had or whatever name you want to call them in the past. Now, even the current national INEC suffers from a lot of image issues. Suffers from a lot of issues. How many Nigerians trust this INEC to even conduct free and fair election? Especially given what happened in the last election. Forget the political framing and all the issues that the US said, the election that didn't actually meet the metrics for free and fair election, but that's what Nigerians wanted. It reflects what the wishes of Nigerians, majority of Nigerians. Now, the point I'm trying to make to you is that when there is a push to make the national INEC conduct local government elections because of their position that when it was conducted we had a freer and better election.
Like for example, in Lagos, like I discussed with you, Mr. Curtis, at that time, for example, in Lagos, there were local governments that were always going to the opposition. Badagry, Ikorodu, and it was more robust and more competitive than what you have now.
I agree with you, and I agree with you that even if the elections that were conducted by the state INEC were allowed to be free and fair, right? You will still have the same outcome. But what I'm saying is that the character and the attitude we display at the state can also be taken to the federal center. If INEC is conducting, at least somebody is controlling the INEC at the center. What if that person's decision is to say, let's win more local governments in all these states because I want to be re-elected or because I want to win an election?
So you think the attitude of our political leaders also matter now? So how do we change their attitude?
The attitude matters. Because I once gave you the example of what happens in the United States. That the Federal Election Commission in the US does not conduct election. They just regulate the political environment. Who is contributing money and to who and how is that money being used? And they are taking reports from the political parties. Do you understand?
I'm with you.
Elections actually are conducted by local officials headed by the Secretary of State, which in our own country is the Secretary to the government of the state. They are the ones in charge of conducting elections in the state, and they are not unbiased. They are members of political parties, registered members of political parties who have even contributed money to their political parties. Do you understand? Now, look at the example of Georgia. Look at Arizona, where the governor, Dr. Ducey, is a Republican. The Secretary of State was a Republican. Look at Georgia, where the governor, Brian Kemp, is a Republican. The Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, is not only a Republican, he's a Trump contributing Republican. They conducted elections that Trump lost.
And they stood by the results. They did the right thing.
And even when the former president went up against them, as allowed by the law, and you know what we seem to be lacking in our country. Look at what happened in Adamawa State, where the INEC chairman for the state, right?
President Electoral Commission.
Went beyond his duty, sidelined the returning officer for the state, right? He had the commissioner of police with him. He had the director of state.
And announced the result that was all complete.
And announced the result. Now, while everybody is talking about the man and how he has committed a crime, who is talking about those who supported him to carry out the crime? Without the commissioner of police and the director of state security service, where did he muster the strength,
the courage to do that,
from to do what he did. You know why they're not talking about that? Because we will get to know who gave that instruction to him.
And not so much have been heard as to his matter, really. It's just been a lot of back and forth, really, when it comes to Yunus Ari.
You are not going to hear anything out of it. That is, the matter is dead.
Incidentally, he was your classmate.
Yes, the matter is dead.
All right.
Look, we have a problem, a big problem on our hands. Because, government institutions cannot defend themselves. They have to be defended by those who man them. And if the people who man them do not the right character and attitude,
then we are just
then
wasting
we're
time.
going to have this kind of problem like we're having.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister Koti Sadiq. But I think on the first issue, we've been able to touch the sides, all the issues that we should bring to the table as far as that particular matter is concerned. I will assume that it's a developing story because, again, we need to know what would eventually come out of the Supreme Court. And then, of course, we're going to be monitoring the activities of the president now that he has now added his voice. So we know it may just be one issue the president wants to leave as a legacy when he leaves office. But we'll continue to monitor development and see whether at the end of the day, this president will break the jinx and get the local governments to function autonomously of the control of our governors in Nigeria. It's still Political Roundtable, mainland 98.3 FM. We're streaming the show live on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. Very, very soon, we're going to open the phone lines, of course, to get your calls and contributions to the show. But like I said earlier, you can drop your comments and contributions on our Facebook and YouTube platform. The messages are already dropping. Bilade Ambo, Olale Konixin, Isaac, Babatunde Shitu, Temitayo Enumidu Finihon, and Kehinde Adelaku. I can see that you're already a part of our Facebook page and you've dropped your comments and contributions. Don't worry. I'll take all the messages when we decide to take them. Now, the second issue by Sakoti Sadiq, again, we're getting updates that the Senate president will be meeting with the Governors Forum and they will be meeting with the labor leaders on this particular issue of minimum wage negotiations to see the possibility of averting what can be a nationwide strike, a complete shutdown, because the information we're getting is that NUPENG, PENGASSAN, and the electricity workers, the union, would also be joining the strike. So it could be a total shutdown in the country tomorrow. But let's look at the issues again. The federal government is saying that, look, it's just, number one, industrial action is not the solution, and the demands of labor, it's just unrealistic. It cannot happen because, again, they put a figure to it by Sakoti Sadiq that the demand of labor will mean the government has to look for 9 trillion naira somewhere to pay. And where will they get the money from? So the question on the minds
of... But they are generating a lot of revenue. They say they are generating a lot of revenue.
But not to commit 9 trillion naira to pay wages and salaries by Sakoti. That's what the federal government is saying.
So what would they commit it to? Infrastructure.
Well, maybe. But let's
they are sharing money.
Okay, let's take it this way.
In the 1 year presidency of President Ahmed Bola Tinubu.
Maybe it's just 1 year.
You know why?
Maybe it's just 1 year.
I ask you this question. Listen, 1 year, 12 months is enough for you to see difference. To see a difference. You know why I ask you this question? The only time we hear of this impossible mathematics is when it has to do with the welfare of ordinary Nigerians, be they workers or non-workers. Do you believe that as I speak to you today, the Nigerian government is so rich that it can afford to give 1 million naira to every Nigerian alive today? Do you believe that is possible?
If that
the economy will not collapse.
You hear of inflation, Vice Sakoti.
Thank you. But they prefer to concentrate that same amount of money in the hands of very few people who will ride roughshod over the others. As if we already don't have inflation. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
Now, if you look at what labor is demanding, is it anything close to what those of them in government are taking? And yet, labor plays a bigger role in terms of multiplying effect of the money that comes into them more than these other people. Let me tell you again that without the poor and the not too poor moving backwards to help the poorer ones, our country would have collapsed. So every time you hear this argument,
the poor are not too poor, helping the poorer ones.
What they're asking,
yeah,
what
I wanted that emphasis. Yeah.
Look, how much money have we voted for the members of the National Assembly? Now, if we were to take the National Assembly as a company that is into production and then making profit, what has the National Assembly achieved for Nigeria to earn that kind of money that they are earning? Do you understand? But we have no problem paying them what we are paying them. In fact, we have no problem budgeting billions of hundreds of billions for their welfare. These are guys that sitting Tuesdays to Thursdays. That's why people are saying, make their sitting on part-time basis. We can still achieve whatever they are doing right now. Do you understand?
I'm with you.
Now, the money you appropriate to buy vehicle, armored vehicle, or whatever kind of vehicle for these guys, the money you use to renovate an existing house, for instance, 15 billion, to renovate the residence of the vice president. How much does it cost to build a new one? You are not buying land. Don't forget about that. Where are they going to put in the house? So when you hear things like this, what they're asking us is too much, blah, 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 just know that it has to do with the welfare of the ordinary people of Nigeria. There are states where what is used to maintain government house in 4 years is more than what the entire state benefits from their own resources. Okay? So let that not be the argument. The argument should be on the reality of the economic situation in our country today. Now, if a man has to spend over 40,000 or 50,000 a month on electricity bill alone, okay? How does 50 or 60,000 become a reasonable amount of money as minimum wage?
I'm surprised that the organized private sector, that's a part of the tripartite committee, have also accepted the 60,000 that's proposed by the federal government.
Well, again, it's a matter of interest, and you know why that is so? Because they have to also pay the new minimum wage, and they are also looking at the economic climate in the country, where the cost of electricity or buying of diesel makes the business extremely difficult for them. Do you understand?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think the only organizations that are making money today, and of course it's also very difficult to understand why banks will be declaring the kind of profits that are declaring in an economy like in Nigeria. Other than that, the big players in the real sector of the economy, like the manufacturing
are struggling.
The industry, many of them are even leaving the country because they just cannot cope anymore. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So you then begin to ask yourself, what is all this about? Now, if a man is going to earn 60,000 as minimum wage, don't forget he has his family to look after. He has to send his kids to school. He's going to pay tax from that money, right? And he has transport to take. If he has a car, he has to buy fuel. The price of fuel is up. The price of electricity is up. The price of food is up. How does he survive on this minimum wage? Now let's compare that to those in the National Assembly and to those in the state houses. You know, and the president, the vice president, and the ministers. Okay? So is that what they have done for themselves? This is why, you know, it's very difficult to convince these workers. And that is not to look, okay, again, in the United States, you know, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. But most of the companies in America are now paying $15 per hour.
That's over and above the minimum wage recommendation.
That's what the private sector is paying.
But that's a thriving sector. They maybe be able to do that because they are thriving. The businesses are thriving.
But I mean, in our own case, and that's why I'm saying they're also looking at the economic situation. Now, in our own case, all right, other than the banks, the others are struggling. And because they are struggling, it becomes very difficult for them to support a higher amount of money. Now, having said that, even those who work for government in America, there are benefits that they get from the state that keeps them, happy with what they earn. Do you understand that?
I'm with you. Yes.
Now, what are the benefits an average Nigerian worker gets from his government? Is it free hospital when they are sick? What do they get?
All right.
So it becomes difficult, to make this case.
By Socrates, we have just some few hours to the possible commencement of a nationwide strike. A lot of Nigerians are worried because they're like another disruption to their lives, because if PENGASSAN joins, if NUPENG joins, if electricity workers join, we are talking of a complete shutdown of the economy. The organized labor, particularly Joe Ajaero, the NLC president, on that Friday meeting where this strike was declared, I said that, look, the government is not even taking us serious. You remember, Mr. Curtis Adiga, the tripartite committee for the minimum wage negotiation was inaugurated as far back as January by the vice president. And why wait till this last minute? Why is the Senate president, for example, suddenly being a part of this? If you remember, during the Buhari government, whenever a strike action is called, the chief of staff, the speaker of the then 9th Assembly, who is now the chief of staff, will always be the one to come in and intervene. Remember the issue of ASU. But Jabi Amila would always call a last-minute meeting and all of that. But Ajaero is saying that, look, in these meetings we've been having, no governor they've not been present, they don't even come. And this last meeting that had a deadlock for 60,000 naira as proposed by the federal government, according to Joe Ajaero, no governor was present and ministers were also absent, except the Minister of State for Labor and Employment, who doubles as the conciliator. There was none present on the side of the government with appropriate authority to commit them to any outcome. In essence, the government abandoned the meeting. I'm quoting verbatim what Joe Ajaero is saying as to the seriousness of government on this particular negotiation. And he's saying that we consider this disdainful and shows a lack of commitment to a successful national minimum wage negotiations exercise. So, why is the government just, is it that the government thinks labor is a joke? Is it that they don't really consider them as important and don't see the capacity of labor really to get these negotiations done and get the government to do their bidding or get their demands done?
There are two things. One, Ajaero is right by saying the government is treating them with disdain. They've had a long time to negotiate and come to an agreement on this. But you see, without the threat of strike, government do not take labor serious. They never consider them to be a serious group of people, especially in recent time, right? And that again showed in the attitude of Mr. President. When he came to Lagos and he was giving a speech, he said, first of all, that labor does not represent Nigerians. If you remember that speech.
I remember, if they want to do politics, they should wait to 2027. He thinks it's all politics.
And nominate their candidate. That's the attitude. So the only time labor gets attention from the government is when they threaten a complete shutdown of the Nigerian economy. And the government attitude is determined or dictated by the response of NUPENG and others to that strike. Don't forget that they've been playing this game of divide and rule. There were times where the trade union congress will say we are not joining the strike. NLC say we are going on strike. The government will ignore NLC completely. Then NLC will come and say it's a warning strike. Do you understand?
Yes.
Every time they get the TUSC or the trade union congress, the TUC and the NLC to come together, you see that the government will wear the serious hat and want to negotiate with them. And it becomes urgent when the PENG wants to join that strike. And that's what you see. That has been the cycle that we're saying. So you see the president of the Senate now calling for the meeting that he had the opportunity to have called months ago.
And even the governors.
He ignored or didn't think, and even think it was not important. They are not coming together. Why? Because they feel that the shutdown or the shutting down of the economy will affect them. But we know that it's not them that it affects. It's the ordinary Nigerians. And they also know that Nigerians don't have the endurance to sustain a long-term strike. Do you understand?
Yeah, me too.
And one of the reasons why most Nigerians are not given to these things is that they know that within the next few days, the same people will meet with government officials, and then they will come out and say, we have suspended the strike. Parties will continue the conversation. And the conversation will not happen after that. And the next thing you hear again is that they are declaring another strike. So because these strikes are not achieving much or anything at all.
Much impact, yeah.
Nigerians don't even believe in the strike anymore. Except that they have no choice but to stay at home. You understand? And the government is also aware that we don't have the energy. Nigerians don't have the energy to sustain a long strike. So for them, it's a matter of days. Let them stay. When they are tired, they will come back.
All right.
Now, all the movement you see about negotiating is because the government just want to sit down and keep quiet. But I can tell you, if they see that this negotiation is not going anywhere, between now and tomorrow morning, there will be an injunction that will be issued from the court to declare the strike illegal. And then the labor will come out and say, okay, we are going on strike. Oh, some people will say, you can't go on strike because the court has said you cannot go on strike. By the way, strike is a right that is protected by the Constitution. So I don't know why judges use
orders as to stop a strike action.
You know, the same people will come around tomorrow and say, you know, the judiciary is under assault. But they are the ones abusing the judiciary.
All right. Finally, if I allow you go, Bʟᴚ, it's been really a long evening of interesting conversations. The two issues, local government autonomy and the impending strike action on minimum wage. Now, minimum wage, call it living wage or sustainable wage. I want to put you on the spot now, Bʟᴚ Saheed. What's your own recommendation? What would you recommend if you are given the opportunity to recommend a figure? What do you think is reasonable and realistic? As you can call it minimum wage, living wage, or sustainable wage, call it anything. But if you were given the opportunity to recommend a figure that should be acceptable to the government and organized labor, what would your figure be? What would be your recommendation?
Okay, I think it's you and Sandra that are in the studio, right?
Yes. But you have to answer this question. It just
hold on first. Yeah. Me and you and Sandra were in the same poor category of Nigeria.
Yes.
How much does it take you to run your small family, you and your wife and 2 children, in a month?
I don't even want to think about it, really. It's crazy.
Is it 60,000?
You know, it can't be 60,000. Never.
Is it 200,000?
I want you to just recommend what you think. For the average Nigerian.
I am in support of what labor is demanded.
So you also think 496,000 is reasonable?
Or even 500 is reasonable. Let them cut down on their own expenditure. See, like I said, Nigeria has got enough money to meet the basic needs of all our citizens. We don't have enough money for the greed of the elite.
Okay.
So I'm in support of labor.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Bʟᴚ Curtis Adigba, for being a part of the show this evening. We appreciate your commitment, to the show, really, and what you do, trying to educate Nigerians and get them thinking about some of these issues. Thank you so much for finding time to be a part of the show this evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right, yeah. It's still Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. Yes, Bʟᴚ Curtis Adigba, we've done a whole lot, really, to dissect these issues. Of course, the line is buzzing. The phone line is buzzing already. We'll start to take calls very soon. You can also drop your comments and contribution. But before we do that, let's listen again to what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had to say on the issue of local government autonomy, what he told the Arewa Consultative Forum at the Aso Villa as to what the government should do, what they should do, to the governors. He said, summon them. But let's also listen again. Let's have the words of the president again, and then when we return, we'll start to pick your calls. It's still Political Roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM.
I will appeal to you to summon the governors. Summon them, call them up. I'm doing my best to improve the revenue of the country and giving them their due. But they must equally be sympathetic to the populace, and they must consider the need of the local people. People reside in the local government. People are in the local community. That is where they reside. That is where they feed. That is where they garden. That is where they cook. That's where they farm. If the local government are not free and leaders don't hang on to the number, we have 774 local government. It's just a number. Is it effective? Is it reaching the real people? Who is being held accountable for this money? Maybe we should look and recalibrate what version that was good 4 years ago might not be good today. And when we want the votes, we go to the locals. When we get the votes, we move to Abuja. I think we have to collectively join hands. I need for you to give us a committee of people that can really embark on the campaign their value to change. Our brothers and sisters, it is disheartening watching the TV and see the number of people in IDPs. No sincere leader in this country.
All right, that was the voice of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu addressing the Arewa Consultative Forum, and of course showing serious concern, by what he was saying as to the effectiveness of local government administration in Nigeria. Of course, 2 issues we've been able to really dig deep into this evening: local government autonomy, summon governors to allow local governments function. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu tells Arewa Consultative Forum leaders, and we're asking ourselves this evening, can the president break the jinx? Again, the AGF has dragged the 36 state governors to the Supreme Court, and so we are asking that ultimate question: can the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, break that jinx at this time? And then the minimum wage negotiations strike begins tomorrow. Forced scarcity blackout loom as NUPENG PENGASSAN vow to join strike. FG begs for more time and understanding. Update: Senate President Godswill Akpabio with the Governors Forum will be meeting with labor leaders this evening to avert the impending strike. The ultimate question, what is the way out? That's the question here. Political Roundtable Mainland 98.3 FM. The line is officially open. 091-36000410. 091-36000410. Hello, good evening.
Good morning. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
I'm Kayode from Abeokuta.
Yes, please go on, sir.
The Lord bless you and Barrister Curtis. I listen to you. First off, I think I will go along with Barrister Curtis on NLC. There is nothing too much to give back to the workers. I'm telling you, 400,000 naira is not too much. So then, if they could not be able to do this, since the Senate President is calling them now this evening, they should go not less than 250,000. I'm asking for that. And then on calling Arewa, summoning Arewa,
telling them to summon the governors. They visited him in Aso Villa.
You see, I think I see this. I mean, I don't know where the power. They don't have any constitutional power to summon anybody.
They're just a pressure group. That's all.
That's all. It's just like a 괓ᴜᴜ. So I wonder what power at all that President Tinubu is trying to see in these people to deploy to call these people. I don't think they will even answer. Not even any of the government will probably attend such or go to such party meeting. Exactly. You see, people is sounding as if it's a place. But why not summoning courage to go and call the governors to at least these people used to come here to visit you in the Aso Rock. They come at will at any point in time. Summon them that at social Wednesday, after social meeting, I want us to meet so that we'll be able to discuss on how far we can go on. I mean, as far as local government is concerned, for development. Because we are the genuine leaders. So if you are now asking Arewa or 괓ᴜᴜ or any other pressure group to go and summon the government, the governments will never. I know these people are arrogant. They are self-serving set of leaders that we have now. You see, our communities need positive role model, which can probably help us. Why can't we now deploy this lack of true leadership so that the system will work for us? NFC, I give kudos to you. Just continue. Whether they like it or not, they must pay that money. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kayode from Abeokuta. 091-36000410. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Fuhad, John from Oba.
Oh, Mr. John, how are you doing, sir?
Kudos to fighters. Kudos to the barristers here. The issue of this minimum wage. Well, let us be sincere. I don't think something above 100,000 the government will be able to pay. Taking into consideration that we have so many loopholes where the government has not been able to stop in terms of corruption, honestly. Nigeria is to be functioning. Yes, we can go as far as 400,000 plus. But before they will look, before they will reach their pocket, I don't think we can. Labor too, what labor needs to do, like I've been saying, labor has left most of the things they are supposed to do that they have not done. Honestly, as a veritable pressure group. Now that is why we are where we are now. Look at the issue of this petroleum subsidy. See where we are now. And while the government was postponing the doomsday, labor was playing along with it. That's the way I will look at it. It's not. So the government is to provide an enabling environment. Even there was a time I was earning 5,000 now as a junior worker. Then in the 80s. And that 5,000 was enough for me to take home. But now, the money, the naira doesn't have any value. Even if we are going to have 400,000, of what value will it be? What is the strength and the bargaining power of this naira? That's just it. So, the environment the government is supposed to provide this, people have not been able to use them to learn all these years. And that's why we are where we are now. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. John from Oba. 091-36000410. Hello, good evening. Hello. Hello, good evening. Hello?
Good evening. Kangolina from Mafuloko.
Oh, Mr. Kangolina, how are you doing?
I'm fine.
Hope you have light this evening.
There's no light on my brother.
Yeah, somebody must have collected NEPA's wife in your area.
There's no light. I'm tired of talking about NEPA.
Okay, all right. Let's have your take this evening. Yes.
I don't know why. I don't know who even said the political office holder should be collecting a different salary from the from ordinary workers. This minimum wage should cut across the entire spectrum. Let me start from the president to the smallest person. So if there was something like that, I don't think they would be dragging their feet. You understand what I'm saying?
I'm with you.
Because the constitution so many that the political office holder will be collecting 200 million, while honorary workers will be taking 30,000. That is why they don't care. So I don't know who come and do that kind of arrangement. So people should, I don't know who will go and change that thing. It should start from the president to the least person. They should fall under the same minimum wage. If that thing was like that, I don't think they would be here dragging that thing and be pricing you. Tomorrow they will pay 10 naira. The next day they will bring.
Like you're saying, Mr. Kankelina, there are people who are suggesting that, look, for senators, for president, let's even look at the salary of a permanent secretary. That should be enough for them, not the special salaries to them. I think that's what you're trying to say.
What stops them? What stops everybody? What do you think? Why do you think that the elected people are superhuman beings? Why can't they fall under the same minimum wage like every other person? That's what we are saying. Those are the things that make them not even feel the impact of the worker. When they remove fuel subsidy, they have money, the whole money in this world to play with. Yes, to pay workers they don't. So my brother, let's see. For labor, history is looking at them. Let them not be induced by these people who want to go and meet them this night.
But don't you think ordinary Nigerians will suffer? It's shutting down the economy. What about ordinary Nigerians?
Yes. If it will make them to change their mind, if it will make them to give workers reasonable salary, then it's good. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kankelina. 09136000410. I'm going to, after this call, I start taking the messages on Facebook. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Fuhad.
Yes, good evening.
From Malaba.
Okay, how's Alaba this evening?
We thank God, my brother.
Right.
Honestly, I agree absolutely with Mr. Kwesi, but the thing is that let's be realistic on this matter. There is no way we are going to increase the wage of the workers. The market tellers will increase the price of everything. Already, things are very tough. Things are very high. I wonder, how are we going to cope? I remember the time of _Adamu the fight was about how to boost the economy. How can a poor man out there that is not collecting money from government will live and survive? How many number of Nigerians are collecting money from the government? How many millions of Nigerians actually are workers from the now? If the wage is increased, the fact is just that the market price will jump up. Now, how do you think a poor man will actually cope? The governors of state, will they be able to cope? The government actually finding 30,000 minimum wage. They can't to pay. Now, many of them are MPLs, the kings and queens of their various states. No, how would they cope if they're going to even 100,000 as a minimum wage? Would they be able to cope? Then the poor man out there, how would the poor man cope? The thing is that we have to come down to a round table. How do we build this country? Not our pocket. The more we build our pocket, the more we go down. The demand of labor is not at this peak. We need to look within. I agree.
Let me ask you, Mr. Adamola, how much would you suggest?
Honestly, I won't go more than 60,000.
You agree to the 60,000?
60,000, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm telling you, because that no matter how it is, the market sellers are waiting for them. One day, money is landed to their pocket, they will collect it at the market. But the poor man, private worker, how would they cope? Where are we going? I agree this government is very reckless in spending, but we have to tackle them, not look into our pocket. Personal pocket will not help the country. Let's look collectively. How do we boost economy and make Nigeria work? Good evening.
All right, good evening, Mr. Damilala from Alaba. He believes 60,000 is okay because, again, there will be this spiral effect, really. You put so much money in the hands of workers, the market women out there will just also do the same thing. But we'll see how it goes, really. The negotiation is still on. The Senate President has said he will be intervening. He has also dragged the governors into the meeting and see how all of this can be resolved. Whether it's minimum wage, living wage, or sustainable wage, we'll see how it goes eventually. Let's quickly deal with the messages we have on Facebook. We have Kehinde Adelaku saying, I'm listening from Port Harcourt. Good day, sir. We say hello to you, sir. Thank you for joining us all the way from Port Harcourt. Tēmítáyọ̀ Inúmidùn is saying, good evening, Mr. Fuhad. To our president, to me, our president is joking. If the president uses the same speed of light, he used to get the old anthem passed as the new at the National Assembly and is happy, he can get it passed within 2 weeks. He's talking about local government autonomy. 2 weeks, okay? For these LGs to work effectively and efficiently, they must be financially, resourcefully, and statutorily independent of the 36 state governments. If not, he's embarked on an exercise in futility as his predecessors. Additionally, our theoretical and academic federal republic must be made practically and fiscally responsible and responsive to the yearnings of the people at the grassroots in all the 774 local governments in Nigeria. And that's from Tēmítáyọ̀ Inúmidùn Fìmíyàn. We have Babatunde Shitu who is saying, thank you so much, Mr. Fuhad. I'm really enjoying your guest. Almighty God continue to bless you for telling us the truth. Olalekan Nixon Isaac is saying, the laws on separation of powers and LG autonomy make sense, but the issue is there must be sincerity of purpose, not just people blowing hot air. We have Ibilade Ambo who is saying, that soundbite of President Tinubu giving his opinion on local government autonomy is uninspiring. It is depressingly melancholic. I don't like it at all. The President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria don't have to be close to weeping to sound helpless to pass a message of that kind to Nigerians. As for the minimum wage discussions between the federal government and organized labor, it's becoming too protracted, to be honest, and I blame the federal government for it. Is this how they discuss the relations of elected officials and appointed officials when it is time to raise it? And that's from Ibilade Ambo. We have Umundu Austin, who is saying, I hope Mr. President would allow the opposition political parties to take some local government areas in Lagos State. He does not like to share at all. He wants to have it all. If elections are conducted and it's free and fair, why not? We have Kazimi Dowi saying, good evening, Mr. Fuhad and Barrister Curtis. Keep up the good work. We are enjoying the program, and thanks for the information always. God bless you both. Then Basil Chika is saying, Labour should not fall to the pressure or whatsoever from the federal government to collect anything less than the amount they are demanding as their minimum wage, unless the government cut down the cost of governance. Their take-home allowances and bring that down the price of fuel, transportation, electricity, and all other taxes imposed on the masses. Please, they should pay them after all. Tinubu said he's generating 2 trillion naira monthly from subsidy removal. That's Chika Bende from Trade Fair. We have Prince Leo Ozoma. We're saying, good evening, Mr. Fuhad and Barrister Curtis. The guest is so objective in his submission. I give him the kudos because such a character gives us hope that Nigeria may be better if we join hands to show away bad leaders and their bad leadership. For the local government autonomy and NLC strike until Nigeria begins to have visionary leaders whose concerns, thoughts, and actions will always be for the good of all Nigerians, then all these frictions will fizzle out spontaneously. For now, it remains back and forth. Leo Zoma from Isolo. Kayode Olonode is saying, I don't know of any constitutional power the Arewa deployed or asked to that the president was asking them to summon in 36 governors concerning local government autonomy. It's just playing to the gallery. It's just like asking the 𝐴fẹ́nifẹ́re Pan-Yorùbá organization to summon these governors. What a joke, what a deceitful way of acting. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is only telling the world that Nigerians is suffering leadership vacuum. He's telling the world also that he was helpless and cannot summon courage to call such a meeting. I think you already called and have expressed this opinion already. Kabiru Adigbero is saying, good evening, Mr. Fuhad. I don't know when our politicians will think on how to make things work as it should be for the people of this country. God bless Nigeria. We have Patrick Obi as always saying, it's laughable that Nigerians are showing that they don't really know what they want, perhaps clouded by tribal or other sentiment. Recall that the same Labour was vehemently opposed to the government subsidies gone decree on May 29 last year. The same Nigerians labor all sorts and called for the head of Ajero and even made beautiful headlines of his travails in the hands of Governor Uzodinma. Today, the same people are reading the books of lamentation Interestingly, Labour have left all behind to seek the good and protection of their own. The same people are today bringing in all sorts of adjectives to qualify Labour's wage demand from government. I hope Labour is no longer accused of being sponsored by a man to sabotage the good works and progress by the government. What goes around comes around. We have James Unwachi-Ogbonna, who is saying, distinguished for I greet you favorably on the planned strike tomorrow. I support it 100%. Mr. Fuhad, there is no justification by the government to penalize Labour on the proposed strike because I know that they may come up with no work, no pay rule. I want those supporting the government and castigating Labour to have a rethink. How much did the budget for SUVs for lawmakers? How much did they budget for SUVs for lawmakers? How much was budgeted for pilgrimage? How much was budgeted for Aso Rock feeding and so many other inhumane expenses? Unfortunately, NLC doesn't know what they should be striking about. NLC is weak since people like Oshomole as NLC chairman left. NLC should be sustaining regular strike to force government to cut down on their expenditure. I stand with NLC because I believe that government has the money to meet Labour's demand. James Ogbonna from Oshodi. Well, we'll pause on the Facebook messages now. We'll go back to taking phone calls. And of course, we'll be right back to the messages. 09136000410. 09136000410. Hello, good evening.
Hello, sir. Mr. Fuhad.
Yes, good evening.
I'll be trying to reach you personally on this issue.
On which of the issue?
Our last month. On the salary of the minimum wage.
Okay, what's your name, sir? Where are you calling from?
This is Akombi from Ojo Local.
Akombi?
That's one day. Yes.
Okay.
Afolabi. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know that our last hope now is Labour? Because both the judgment and the Senate, they are all collect their own. The only people that have not collect their own is the Labour. See the increment they have already increased on the Senate and the judiciary. See the increment. You understand me? And the Labour now, you are now telling us that the Labour cannot collect more than 50,000. I expect the Labour to have the like chairman or any people that they can organize from the local government, because for us to come to the anywhere in this local government, but it's easy for everybody in this local government. And I want them to not only for their minimum wage, for the issue of the local government or autonomy, they should fight for that one too. The Labour can fight for that one too and carry everybody along for this issue. They should not just talk on their minimum wage. They should carry everybody, because they are saying now that if they increase their money, the market woman will increase their own. The DC will increase their own. What about when they increase when they promote the subsidy? Are they not increasing? Don't see the little one that they increase on the fuel. The market doesn't increase. See the dollar. It is only when they want to give their labor money, they increase their labor. Now that's when the business will increase. And the little stop when they reach labor. If they give labor the enough amount, they will not be corrupt. Well, you see, that is where we need to start all these things. We need to reform all these things now. Because if they give labor more money, the mechanic, the painter, the people that they are building out, they will see money to collect and to share and to do well for their own family.
All right.
Let people not tell us that if they increase their labor money, that is when the thing will be rise up. The thing have not rise up before. Everything has already rise up. Let them give the labor the correct money.
Thank you, Mr. Kombi Afolabi from
Hello, Dr. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah, this is Madam Sanao.
Madam Sanao, how are you doing?
Good evening, sir. Very well, sir. And you, sir?
Fine.
Therefore, what is the percentage of labor in Nigeria? You understand? In this country is only for labor. They are just demanding for minimum wage for themselves workers. What of we or other people? A businessman, that is not a priority as far as I'm concerned. Okay, how much do you think federal government will pay? At 12 is 100,000. At 12 if worse comes to us. Hello, sir.
I'm with you. Yeah, you are communicating. I'm with you.
So I'm thinking that people will push on government policies, sir. Minimum wage. cost of living, electricity. These are the things they will talk of. Not minimum wage. Minimum wage, that is not reality. Someone has paid 490,000 naira for a cleaner, or rather driver, at least person. What of the someone in level 19? I mean level 15. So this is something that is not reality. Okay, let us just follow their sentiment. Or guess what? I was one time a worker, a federal and also. You understand? The cancer that labor supposed to even pursue or fight for is casualization, sir. You understand? Okay, you pay me 100,000, you pay me 200,000. I work for you for 10 years, 15 years, and you say I'm a casual staff. I have no gratuity or pay off whatever. I should go. I've told you before. I know a lady that we work together. When I was leaving, I asked her, let us go. She said no. She's not ready to go. She worked for 22 years, and she was paid 250,000 naira. At the end of the day, when she was laying off, they just pay out 250,000. That she's not established. Wow, these are the priorities of labor. Okay, for these are the things that labor should fight
focus
for.
on.
Yes, casualization. Tell me why financial institutions will have casual. Tell me how a federal government, CB and others will have casual staff. That is nothing. This is what labor will fight for. But be that as it may, as far as I'm concerned, well, is they're fighting for their right. But they are not up to 2% or whatever.
Malam Salah, yeah, okay. Local government autonomy, you don't have anything to say on that?
I'm with you, sir. I'm with you, sir.
I say local government autonomy. The president is telling area consultative forum to summon the government.
That is, they are just contractors now. Those people you see, they are contractors.
Who are the contractors?
They don't want to. They are concerned, whatever. They just want to start a dialogue with the government. I mean, to have him into go. That is Mahmoud, their secretary. What are they calling him? Is he not given appointment as a special advisor to the vice president on political whatever? That is the area consultation. You understand? When you are putting pressure on government, writing something, they call him and give him an appointment. So they are just
so you don't take them serious.
No. They are not the serious people. They are not serious people.
Thank you so much, Malam Salah.
It was arrest.
All right, thank you so much, Malam Salah. You are not serious. Hello, good evening. Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Fuhad. This is Tayo calling from Ogba.
Okay, Mr. Tayo from Ogba. All right, sir.
Yes, I disagree with Barrister Curtis.
Please, you need to adjust maybe your position and speak directly into the phone.
Yeah, my position on the local government something is that courts are to interpret the law.
Okay.
When they interpret, they tell us what are the intents of the framework of the law. What were they thinking in mind? Those who wrote that law cannot be thinking that the way the governors are treating the local government
is what we treat
now. Yeah. So once the Supreme Court can interpret it, it is enough. But then later they can go and changing constitution to align with the Supreme Court judge. Then Barrister Curtis said about that they have enough money that they should give them 500,000. Come on now. The total government workers, MLC, are they up to 3% of the population? Give them 500,000. And then Barrister Curtis will be buying rice at 300 and a bag of rice, 300, 350,000. Is that what we want? Is that what we want?
Okay, Mr. Tayo, let me ask you the same question I asked him before we allowed him to go on the show. What would be your suggestion, minimum wage for workers? I mean, looking at all of the issues.
Look, at least we made 70,000. So if they can lock it at 80,000, whatever, it's fair enough.
Okay.
It's fair enough. And then they talk about Donald Trump convicted in America. Because those demands are convicted, elected by the people. Prosecutor is elected by the people. The woman in Georgia now, and elect people in very next condition. So if we don't elect our judge, we elect our church, we elect our whatever.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tayo. The line was breaking, but I think I was able to pick what you're saying. Election of judges, that's also one big conversation when it comes to the reforms in the judiciary, the possibility of us electing our judges. that's one.
We elect our judges.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mr. Tayo. It's one conversation I'm sure we'll try and dig into another day. Hello, good evening.
Chief Fuhad.
Good evening, Obi.
We live together, we die together.
Chief
I follow you everywhere. I agree to it.
Fuhad,
I was shedding tears when I was listening to the president's speech.
Very emotional.
But I had to wipe my tears when Barrister Curtis explained everything. I had to clean my eyes. I was almost crying for me. President is emotional, but when Barrister Curtis explained all these things, he has a better way of going around it without going through that route. You understand what I'm saying? But what? John the Baptist, since he was killed, we have been looking for the head. But he finally finds the head in the bank account of the judiciary officers, executives, and the legislators. You understand? Why that is 15 on 497? How can the Senate president be eating up to 80 million? Senators 30 million. Federal House up to 60 million. Ordinary councillors between 400. People that just into government for 2 years, 3 years, 500,000 naira. All those assets. Put everything cumulative. Put the also from 1999. Check the amount the politicians have been collecting. Just suppose it with these things that giving the workers. Is it fair? Is it fair? Look at 5 million naira to the judges. Are they shopping in different markets? What? Is the bill that they are just selling different bills for judges and the different bills for civil servants? Come on, let the people say it's too much. They say it will cause inflation. That I had to hear that because the federal government wants to pay 75 million, 50,000 to 75 million Nigerians. And you have to 75 million civil servants for what? Would that cause inflation? Would that cause 75 million people 50,000? That would not cause inflation. It's when they pay civil. I'm not a civil servant. Let me put you through. I'm not. I sympathize with them. 60,000. Let them make it to 120 to 150,000. Thank you very much.
All right. Obi has also recommended between 120 to 150,000. Okay. Thank you so much, Obi. 09136 0000410. Hello. Good evening.
Very good evening to you, Mr. Fuhad.
Good evening, Prince Wise.
How are you today?
Fine.
One day you in the studio.
Yes, sir.
God is with you, and we as a worker will always be with you.
Thank you.
You see, the local government, the attorney general that went to court and 101 is supposed to work to demove. Here the court determined, and I know at the end of the day, this government is going to win. That's for that. And for the Nigerian Labour Congress, for me, I don't want them to go on strike. They go on strike, it's not those really that will suffer, it's really the poor masses. It is those billion, many at the end of the day, the money to develop the country went under the drain. And when you talk of strike, it's not the best after strike. We are how many weeks we stand as to Salah festival? We should not enjoy our Salah. We make money for the income.
They should allow us to enjoy our Salah, Prince Wise.
Yes, if they want to strike now, it's not working.
Are you sure people have money to do any Salah this time, Jeff?
Whether they like it or not, we must celebrate our Salah.
Okay.
By God's grace. But what I know, the Labour Congress is to go between 90, 100, no more, no less. We have a lot to demand for. Yes, we demand for health allowance from various organizations. Transportation allowance. Even though the CNG that coming, they should put it under their care for management at a subsidized price. This is what the labour should be asking for, not a bogus salary. If somebody tell me that labour should collect 200,000 today, I say unless if they want to, how many the federal government has as workers? They are not up to 20 million. What a private body. Even though the lawyer that our lawyer in the studio, no lawyer that will tell me today
that he never appoint 2 or 3 or 5 people to work in that chamber. How much they are they paying their workers?
Okay, Prince Wise.
Yes, I'm listening.
How much would you recommend? So I allow you to go this evening. Hello, Prince Wise. Okay. I was waiting to hear from him. Okay, sorry about that, Prince Wise. I think the line just went off. Well, let's quickly deal with the messages we have on Facebook and hopefully squeeze in one more call before we call it a day on the show. Dayo Dada is saying, even crew, the rubber stamp said it just proved that the reality of this government is cash and carry, objection and mortuary. Everybody get agenda with mercenary enterprise. That is why they quickly passed the anthem bill. The silence of Nigerians has made government legitimize has made them turn to lawlessness, dreams to nightmare, brilliant minds to low-grade minds, secured to a gangster paradise, turning to beggars and almajis in the midst of plenty, turning a booming nation to economic disaster, pocketing institutions and making them ineffective, turning journalists to high-service propagandists. Another 1 year of nightmare of our president. Like Mr. Obi said, if the foundation that brought you into power is not credible, you can't be credible. It's a shame the worst of us is ruling the best of us. Truly, the worst country. That's Dayo that I had to struggle really to read all of that, but it's fine. That Daolajide Peter is saying, good evening, Mr. Fuhad and Mr. Curtis Adiba. How about Mr. Nuruddin? He's doing very, very well. My suggestion for the minimum wage for now is nothing less than 100K. However, it will be better for the labor to request or fight for a living wage because our currency presently has no value. That's that Daolajide Peter from Isashi. Then we have Prince Aʀᴇᴡᴜ Cassidy, who is saying Tinubu sounded so helpless when talking as if it's not the same governors that kneel to him and play to his gallery whenever he wants. If he wants to do the right thing, he knows what to do by opening account for LGS and pay their monies directly without the state governor's intrusion. Don't really like the way he's behaving as if his hands are tied. Secondly, when minimum wage was 18K, bag of rice was 7K. Now that rice is 80K, I suggest minimum wage should be 180K. Okay? 180,000. Then we have Uche Nwankpa saying, why is Akpabio the joker before Inge the doctor? FG not serious with workers. And then Temitope Ojo is saying, to be sincere, LG autonomy is a good move. Minimum wage 100,000 is okay and with what is on ground now. Even house rent is on the high side. Anything less than 100,000 is not accepted. Zacchaeus Akinwale Olato is saying they should slash all political order salary is the first move in the country. Not seeing themselves like Lord. They are just there to serve. Not seeing themselves as untouchable. And then we have Joseph Anduava, who is saying, good evening, Joshua from Oregon. See, I pity people telling labor the cause to fight for. As a people, if we can't fight for ourselves and we expect labor to fight for us, after voting people other than people will come and be fighting our fight. Labor are fighting for themselves. If we are not okay with the happenings, let's rise and fight for ourselves and non-labor, please. Well, that's all the messages we have on Facebook. Let's see if we can squeeze in just one more call before we call it a day on the show. Hello, good evening.
Well, good evening. Happy Sunday.
All right, good evening, madam. If you have just 1 minute, because we are at times fast spent on the show this evening. Yes.
Yes, I want to say this minimum wage they are looking for. To me, I don't support it. Okay. Already, house rent is very, very high. A room now, a room size content is 200, 300. Around now, room fitness flat will become 30,000 a month. People should be very careful. So that NSC to fight government to resuscitate our refinery or sell it off so that we know where we are going. Everything boils down on price of food, petrol, carro, diesel. If we start producing our things and business in our country, all these things will not be there. There is a people of minimum of 600, 400, 100.
Madam, if you what would you suggest? What amount would you suggest?
Look, let them keep on taking that 30,000 and fight these people. And then the rate of inflation in the country is too much. When they hear that they've added money to this thing again, you will not be able to stand it. Maybe some of us, anyway, my father has a village, I'll go.
You can't leave us in Lagos, Madam Ife. Thank you so much, Madam Ife. And that will be the last call for the evening political roundtable, Mainland 98.3 FM. Well, we'll say thank you to everyone that was a part of the show this evening. Barrister Curtis Adiba also joined us all the way from the United States, and I think we had a very brilliant conversation as to how to get local government autonomy. The president is telling Arewa Consultative Forum, summon the governors, appeal to them, to allow local governments function effectively. Because when we need our elections, when we need votes, we go to the local government, the local level. But when we win, we just abandon them and face Abuja. And of course, the AGF is already in court. We'll see what comes out of that. And then minimum wage conversation. Strike looms tomorrow. Nationwide shutdown looms tomorrow. Whether it will be or not, we wait to see. Senate President Godswill Akpabio, the governors will be meeting with labor leaders, and we'll see whether there will be a resolution to this issue of minimum wage negotiations. We'll keep our eyes on the ball. We'll give you the updates as they come. My name is Saheed Fuhad. Let's do this again next week.
In this budget, that Yari presented to you, I have facts, constituency by constituency.
Stop paying attention to the hustle and bustle of